racers over the years. Short list of those we can talk about in length as we get into it. But, for the first time, somebody we've seen racing at the under 20 level, at the national level, coming off wins in cross country and then just won on the streets of New York at New York Marathon weekend. Zariel Macchia kind of leading our headliners here in the New York side.
Well, you said national level, Paul. I would argue international level. Zariel Macchia was 19th at the World Athletics Cross Country Championships in 2023. She was third in the Pan American under 20 3,000 meters in 2023. This young lady has done it all. She was the fifth-ranked miler in 2024 by Track and Field News, but she's equally adept at all distances up to 5,000 meters. And last year, she won the USATF under 25,000 meters. And at the same time finished second in the 1,500 in that very same meet. And then as a part of that weekend, Paul was second in the Nike Outdoor Nationals in the 2-mile. Quite a resume for Zariel Macchia, and then Sadia Berkovits ranked number 21 in the country, the sophomore from Ithaca. She was third at NXR last year, the number 2 returnee. She was second to Macchia, who won by only 8 seconds at the state meet. And then Sophia McInnes, another veteran, a senior. She is the leading returnee from last year. She was second. She's undefeated this year, Paul, 4 of 4. She has 2:07 800-meter speed, the New York State Class B champion in 2023 and 2024. And let's not forget Lily Bogdan, Paul, because she won NXR in 2022. So we have the 2022 winner in there as well. She was fifth in the New York Class A championships behind a murderer's row of excellent athletes, including Macchia and Berkovits, and then Amelia O'Leary, another NXR veteran. Paul, she was 56th in 2019 as a seventh grader, Amelia O'Leary. Now, on the team side, the number 1 team in the nation, Bethlehem, they won the New York Class A championship by 55 points. They go 7 deep. Their top runner from last year, Anna Kraporotsky, she is now their number 4 runner. That's how good they are. Shenandoah also nationally ranked. They're led by junior Layla Bouzri and junior Courtney Kraviecki. And Saratoga Springs is led by an 8th grader, Erin Molesky, who was 19th at the New York Class A championship, and Cora Conley, a 9th grader who was 32nd at New York Class A. Saratoga Springs, Paul, seems to be reloading this year. That Kinetic Track Club, as they're always known as, has been a dominant force at past NXRs and NXNs.
Yeah, this is a loaded region when it comes to former performances from great teams over the years at Nike Cross Nationals and Nike Team Nationals. Of course, Fayetteville Manlius qualified 14 consecutive times from 2006 to 2019, and Saratoga Springs also a healthy number of appearances as well, as they've come a record 16 times through the regional all the way to Nike Cross Nationals. As you mentioned, top-ranked teams are all here. They're all here racing not only for the 2 automatic spots to Nike Cross Nationals as part of the regionals, but also here for the Federation Championships. And, we heard it in the interview with Zariel Macchia earlier in the DISTAT discussions. The fact that this Federation race is also combined with the regional race has opened up the opportunity for her to step to the line and try to make her first Nike Cross Nationals.
Yeah, and I am really excited to see her run, Paul. Her range is so magnificent. Her international experience, to finish 19th at the World Athletics Cross Country Championships when she was just a junior is just so impressive. To compete with that much maturity and savvy on the international level. She has lost a race this year, though, believe it or not. She's won 4 of 5. It was probably just a blip on the radar. But Sadia Berkovits is a tough customer, only a sophomore, and she might be willing to run with Macchia, especially on a course like this, Paul, which can make cowards of us all with the kind of up and down and twists and turns and roots and mud.
I think I would be a coward by just not agreeing to run it.
Very excited for this race. Should be a real barn burner.
5,000-meter distance again across all of our regionals, and we'll have the Gator work its way across here, and you can find a team or individual that you've tuned in to cheer on. We appreciate you all tuning in on this beautiful Saturday in Wappingers Falls, New York. Bowdoin Park, really one of the centers of the sport each and every year before these folks all start to transition in their training and their racing as they start to venture indoors in places like the New York City Armory, another great Nike-sponsored facility in the heart of New York up in Washington Heights, really one of the great venues of our sport as well. It's time of the Mill Road Games coming up in early February, but right now still some outdoor racing to be had here on a chilly but warm enough day to have you all down into your normal team kits here, and the Gator will get itself in position and we'll get set for racing here over 5,000 meters, the New York Federation Championship at Nike Cross Regionals in 2024.
Paul, the course record 16:45.2 set by Caitlin Toohey. That was back in 2018. We have 297 entries, the second, third, and fifth place finishers from 2023 back. I don't know if they'll be able to break that course record. That's a tough course record, but the competition will be there maybe to push them.
Gator lined up right behind the starter, the gun about to go up, and the racing about to begin. The top high school girls in the state of New York have arrived at Bowdoin Park to race for a New York Federation Championship at Nike Cross Regionals, New York. Wide
kind of
swath
like
here as they get started here, Tom, as they'll, as you've mentioned in that boys race, we just saw just how narrow it gets. So, you know, risk is rewarded here. If you can get yourself to the front of the pack, you're going to be in a much better position to challenge for a low stick.
And no doubt about it. I do think that it's going to be very interesting to see how this race unfolds, Paul. We saw Sykes in the last race kind of wait for those downhills before he made his move because he knew he was a good downhill runner, and having a low center of gravity and very good turnover really gave him a shot. Now I can see Makia there. She's also relatively short and compact. It will be interesting to see what her race strategy is in and of itself. With that 2-week window between this race and nationals, you really can go very hard here and still have plenty of time to recover.
Bid number 310 is Sophia McGinnis, a Bayport Blue Point senior, two-time New York Class B champion, was third in this Federation race a year ago, and then went on to finish second at NXR. This a combined race this year, so a bit of more efficiency to her racing here in the early going, but she's going to set this early pace. See Sadia Berkovitz of Ithaca on the left side of your screen, and then 588, that's Makia, who we talked about in the early going, wearing the Floyd bib and settling in for the early pacing here as they just get the racing underway 2 minutes in.
Well, we've got our leaderboard of legit contenders right there at the front. McInnes, a very experienced runner, and she has 2:07 800 meter speed, so she can really hoof it. She won her state Class B race by 7 seconds. She is undefeated this year. Paul has not faced Makia or Berkovitz yet. And as you pointed out, second to Emily Bush last year in this race. So she knows the course, knows the conditions, and Makia now moving up right there, as is Berkovitz. So you really are three co-favorites right in the mix early on.
As mentioned previously, Makia has really asserted herself on that international stage, but also showing her versatility, right? The quality of her racing on the track, in cross country, and even on the roads. Again, that U20 5-kilometer championship just about 3 weeks ago. And there were a few climbs in Central Park on the way to that finish line, but nothing like what they're seeing right now as they make their way to the early sort of teaser climbs and descents before the real ascent comes here shortly.
Yeah, and I'm watching Makia's turnover here on this downhill, and you can tell again because she's a little bit more compactly built, she has terrific turnover using those downhills just like Sykes did, and she may let them come back to her when they start moving uphill again. But those three have started to really pull away Makia on the left, Berkovitz in the middle, and McInnes on the right. Berkovitz kind of all over the place, Paul. She's not really an orthodox type of runner. She kind of sways left to right, those arms really moving all over the place. But she's able to hang with the leaders here very comfortably.
Lower left corner of your screen, the athletic course tracker showing where they are. Again, running sort of parallel to the Hudson River. Then we'll make the turn and into that climb. You can see what that climb looks like from an elevation standpoint with the elevation tracker along the bottom of the screen. It is the only major climb and descent of this race, but as we saw in the boys' race with Sykes taking advantage of it, that eventually led him all the way to the finish line and the victory. That is a key point in the race, even though it is really right around halfway home.
Yeah, and the point that I think is the most treacherous and dangerous that these young ladies will be coming up to in about a minute, and that is when they go from this surface to a quick trip onto macadam to a quick downhill filled with a muddy part of the course, and then the tap dance around and McInnes almost tripped there. There's a lot of opportunities for disaster on this course. Of course, you hope you never see it, and if you get going too fast on those downhills, as we saw with Sykes, you can go wide and crash, basically.
See a little bit of gravel on the outer stretches, but so much racing in the middle of this course has brought up whatever rock was there, and now it's just semi-solid ground. A lot of the athletes in the earlier racing talking about how it is treacherous not only for those roots, but also just the muddiness of the course on a relatively dry day. Still some moisture has been in the area, and just kind of the nature of the timing of this race affords maybe not the most consistent ground to cover over these 5,000 meters.
And they've slowed it down so much that we have others that have joined this group, and I think this is interesting. It's a very tactical race, and that's Leila Bouzri of Shenandoah, who is the third-place finisher from the Class A meet and a critical component to Shenandoah, ranked number 21 in the country, to try to get into the top two on the team battle. So the Shenandoah fans and coaches must be very pleased with her position right up there amongst the leaders.
Yeah, 5 girls there in the front lead pack as they're going to start this climb up to the highest point of the race course. Our first split opportunity, which will get us the leaders and the relative distance between them by time and the rest of the field. Will come up at the halfway mark, along with the chance to have the in-progress team scores. 2 teams automatically qualify for Nike Cross Nationals. There are at-large bids available for those who finish out of the top 2, but those decisions made in a week or so from now. And again, top 5 individuals get invitations. If any of those top 5 are connected to a team that also qualifies, then their spot is freed up and it goes to the next spot in the order. So finishing in the top 10 is important, because it doesn't necessarily mean if you finish outside of the top 5 today that you won't be invited tomorrow.
And Makia decides to take that little string of downhills to maybe make a little bit of a surge. This is not where the really large proportion of the downhills occur. But I have a feeling, Paul, she's going to separate when we get to that grouping of downhills and switchbacks. I think that's where she's really going to go. You see, we're almost at the apex of the uphills. And that little, I don't know, you can't call it a house, but whatever that thing is, it's kind of the last of the climbs when you hit that spot in the race. And it's nice to see a real race here. As you pointed out, there are 5 in that lead pack.
And Bouzri also making a really determined effort here to attack the climb along with Makia. And all 5 of the girls staying relatively in contact with each other here. Just a couple of more crests and strides to get to that downhill. That's where Sykes made his move. And we'll be watching here momentarily who's going to try to take advantage of that downhill momentum that is almost there.
And I think it's a very good sign for Makia that she's leading through all these uphills, because I'm fairly certain that she will be the best at the downhills. And right now, Bouzry really running the race of her life to be hanging with these national caliber athletes the way that she has. And these switchbacks are also very, very difficult. A lot of athletes kind of looking around when they make those switchbacks, see where their competition is. And we're coming up right at the top where now this very significant downhills happen. And in these switchbacks, Paul, the footing is very, very treacherous because you're going so fast and you're having to move from one corner to another. And we're coming up to the halfway point here at the moment.
Yeah, we'll
Pretty
get
slow
that halfway.
pace, honestly.
Yeah, it's very slow pace. Just over 9 minutes elapsed on the clock. We saw Makia kind of shake out her arms on those final few switchbacks to the climb, and now she and Bouzry are going to be the ones that are really going to try to let the legs start to turn over here and just not even allow themselves much control, just trying to pick up the speed. And you can see the arms starting to flail a little bit by Makia, trying to stay as much in control as she can as she comes off this hill. She will have the lead with Bouzry, O'Leary, McGinnis, and Berkovitz. Those are your top 5. Lexi Cole is about 7 seconds off the lead. Logan Kuhn, Abigail Kowalczyk, and Sloan Wasserman, along with Naomi Douglas, constitute the top 10 as they now make their way to an additional downhill stretch, but now back into the flat racing, and this is really where Makia is at her strength.
No kidding, and very good sign for Bethlehem that Logan Kuhn is up amongst the leaders. Excellent sign for them. This is a very tough part of the course, and with people running also. I forgot to mention that, Paul. There were a lot of people warming up for the next races or just joggers, and that's another impediment that you have on this course. You have to be super, super, super attentive. And Makia looking very good, but so is Bouzry. And kind of maybe the big surprise is Kuhn being up there amongst the leaders. And Bethlehem and Shenandoah, as expected, they have all 5 of their scores already at that 2.5K mark. And when the dust settles, they should be 1-2, I think, when we get to those standings. Makia really doing a nice job with the turnover, using those downhills to great advantage. Look at her go.
Yeah, but look at Bouzry go as well. She is not letting Makia get too far ahead, though as I say that, maybe a little bit of daylight between there, and there's a big look back by Makia saying, have I broken them yet? And she hasn't.
Paul, Bethlehem is just absolutely running away with this thing. 37 points to Shenandoah's 91. Remember, Shenandoah is the number 21 ranked team in the country. And it's just really impressive performance by Bethlehem. And at the front, you were right. She can't shake Bouzry yet. And it'll be interesting to see when that moment happens, if that moment happens. But Bethlehem is just laying waste on the team side. Sophia Kromchik, the 8th grader, Paul, currently in 12th for Bethlehem. Anna Kraparitsky, the top runner from last year's NXR, she's currently in 16th. So they have 3 of the top 16, does Bethlehem. And then Charlotte O'Meara, 26th. That's their number 4 runner. So they are proving that they are indeed the number 1 team in the country. And boy, oh boy, I am shocked to see that Bouzry is just hanging in there with Makia and looking very, very good. Her facial countenance looks great, Paul. Her turnover looks great. And she is really, really running well. And this performance is certainly helping her team Shenandoah, which is gapping Saratoga Springs for that 2nd spot.
Yeah, just kind of trying to keep herself within contact of Makia and gauging the opportunity maybe to attack at some point in this race. But Makia, can really just see her putting deliberate and hard strides into the ground here, trying to break away. Another look behind, and maybe just again shocked by the fact that Bouzry is still in the lead. But now look at that all-out sprint here for a moment by Makia, trying to break this open finally.
Paul, she really went to the arm action there, really drove very, very hard with the arms. But the question is Bouzry now, if that was kind of Makia's move to try to get herself some distance, the question is, can Bouzry then, and she is, tightening it back up again. So Makia trying to make those big moves on the downhills, Paul, and maybe recovering a little bit on the flats.
I'm struck by just kind of watching Bouzri for the very first time and thinking about who owns this course record here. She has very much a style reminiscent of Caitlin Toohey, just that bounce that she has, that comfortableness in her stride, and is just not ever showing a deliberate change in her racing style. And, again, while Makia has got a little bit of room now between her and second place, Makia still is worried about her because she makes a look behind once again. And Bouzri, even though it's hard from this straight-on position from the Gator, is not out of it yet as they come along the Hudson River for the final time.
Not at all. And Bouzri was third in the Class A meet. So these two have run against each other before. And I don't think, to your point, that Makia is out of the woods. And I do love the tempo that Bouzri has. She runs very much under control. Only a junior.
Well, we knew coming into this race that Makia really wanted the opportunity to race for not only that Federation title, but also to get a spot at Nike Cross National. Seems comfortably in position to get one of those 5 automatic bids, but now it's a chance to try to win this race overall, still with that lead on Bouzri as they reach 15 minutes elapsed on this clock against the course record of 16:45. And Bouzri, is she trying to attack again and try to close the gap here as they kind of twist their way through the woods?
And Paul, what I'm seeing again is Makia is attacking the downhills, using the uphills and the flats as recovery. That's allowing Bouzri to come back into the picture. It's really going to be very, very interesting to see as we get towards the end of this race when it's flatter and there are fewer downhills, how this thing is going to shake out. Bouzri now going to be right up on Makia's shoulder. Has Makia left something for the finish the way she has left something for those downhills that she attacked? There goes another surge by Makia. This is like Makia's running like a Kenyan-type race with these surges. Looks over her shoulder again, looks over again, but she is making concerted efforts to recover and surge. Recover and surge.
And Bouzri seems incredibly comfortable still in that chase position. There is a little bit of a climb left here, Tom, in the latter stages of this race, and then it kind of a gentle downslope into that finish chute. So still some opportunities for momentum here. Makia covering every move that Bouzri has given her so far, but Bouzri still within a few strides of attacking another time, potentially at the finish.
Paul, I think that we're going to see Bouzri probably come up on Makia's shoulder in that little slight uphill when we get back into the woods. There's a section coming up where we go into the woods for a very short period of time. The last uphill occurs in that section. And the question is, will Bouzri try to make her pass at that moment? We're getting to that moment right now, Paul. This is the uphill.
Yeah, Bouzri's going to make that move and try to do it again, and Makia is going to try to respond again. And this time, Makia, maybe not as much of a way to break back open here in the second surge. Bouzri relinquishing that position right alongside Makia, but again, the twist and turn still leading this down to a phenomenal finish as they try to avoid some of those treacherous parts of the course here before it opens up wide for the finish.
Makia shut those arms. I believe she has one more surge left in her, Paul. She's gathering herself by shaking out her arms. She's gathering herself. I'm not really aware of what kind of foot speed Bouzri has. We know that Makia is a very fast 1,500 meter runner, 4:16, 4:47 miler. This is the last little uphill before it's goodbye, and Makia is saying goodbye right now, Paul. She saved something for the end, and she is flying.
And look at that delta that she's broken up in just a few strides here, and now coming off that downhill and into full stride as she comes into the finish chute. A race that was side by side just a moment ago is now broken wide open. Zariel Makia of William Floyd is going to take the victory here at the New York Federation Championships at Nike Cross Regionals, as she takes the victory. And what an effort by the junior Layla Bouzri of Shenandoah. as she will come across in second and hopefully gets herself not only an invite as an individual, but wants to have her team join her as well. And it was looking very good at the halfway mark, but we'll see what has to happen here over the course of these finishes that are to come. And again, the top 5 to come across the line, Amelia O'Leary finishing there in third. So she will get an automatic invite out of East Aurora. And then behind her is bib number 316. That's Sophia Krumzak of Bethlehem. And then 393. And the rest of the field coming through 355 as well, as we'll get the official results here momentarily. But Zariel Makia, Tom, we knew she would have something to take at the end, but boy, did she just wait till the final moment and just blasted it when it mattered.
So Zariel Makia has had national experience. She's had international experience. She just gave a master class on how to strategically run a cross-country race. The race was slow. The course record 16:45. Zariel Makia won in 18:09, but she gave a master class on how you think about a race mentally and strategically, and she was a brilliant performer from a strategic level. And I also want to say that Bethlehem getting that huge top finish from Kromzak, the 8th grader, to finish in the top 5. Wow, what a performance by Bethlehem, the number 1 team ranked in the country, and they showed why today, Paul, on this course.
Yeah, and she'd only finished 8th in the New York Class A. So, again, Bethlehem with a lot of depth across their top 7, and on any given day, another one of those members can step up and be the one to carry the flag, and in this case, it was an 8th grader who does it here in Bowdoin Park. Waiting for more official results to populate. As soon as they do, we'll add them to the screen here, and we'll have hopefully unofficial team scores. Those scores tend to be dynamic before the finishes are made official, so bear with us here as we await those results to come. And a reminder that coming up here momentarily after the conclusion of this girls' race in New York will be the Northeast region. You don't have to go far. It's the exact same course that will host those Northeast runners here coming up shortly. First the boys and then the girls.
And as dominant as Bethlehem Central's been in this race, we also expect Christian Brothers to do the same on the boys on the northeast side of the equation.
So the finishers beginning to come through. We're starting to see some of the results populate as well, even though we haven't got them on the screen. It looks like Bethlehem and Shenandoah are going to be the 2 automatic qualifiers here on the team side. There you see the scores now, still unofficial, but Bethlehem, look at that. They're top 5 in the top 11, getting them 29 points for a rather definitive win here in New York.
You could say that. Definitive. An outstanding field featuring 4 teams ranked in the top 30 in the country, and Bethlehem whizzed by 63 points. Are they ready to win a national championship? You bet. And they're so deep, Paul. I mean, that's the one thing. They've got 7 runners that finished in the top 14 at the New York State meet last week. And again today, Kromzak 4th, Kuhn in 8th, Bannigan, who was their number 1 runner last week, finished 13th. Krapovitsky, the number 1 runner last year in this meet, finished 17th. I mean, just astounding how deep they are.
And for Saratoga Springs, if that holds to be in 3rd, they would try to make the case that they belong there as one of the top 20, 26, I think is their current ranking. Could move them up into the top 25 after their performance today. And would that be enough for them to be afforded an at-large bid. Those decisions to be made in the coming weeks. But this has always been a region that has been seen as one of the strongest, and with the type of racing we saw here today, Saratoga Springs doing the best they can to make the case, finishing in third behind Bethlehem and Shenandoah.
Paul, also a shout out to Naomi Douglas of LaGuardia. We wouldn't have necessarily expected her to be a top 10 placer, and she really ran very, very well. Picked off 5 runners in the last half of the race. And by the way, the 8th grader, Kromzak, picked off 8. But a shout out to Naomi Douglas of LaGuardia finishing 5th there. A very nice performance.
Well, and if Bethlehem and Shenandoah both get into the team race in automatic bids, that frees up, what, 2nd place because of Boozary, and then Kromzak finishing in 4th. So you'd go down a couple of more in the order, freeing up spots for Kylene Brady, who finished in 6th, and Leslie Cole, who finished in 7th. But as we see these final racers come across the line, Tom, reflections on this New York region race.
I was really, really impressed with the strategic savvy of Zariel Macchia. We don't see that in high school runners. Heck, we don't even sometimes see that in college runners. Just brilliant strategic performance by her. And Bethlehem Central, boy, oh boy, are they good. Those are my thoughts.
So the action will continue here coming up shortly as we'll transition from the New York to the Northeast. But we'll keep the camera here on the finish line for these final few racers to the finish. Congratulations to all of our racers here today at the New York Federation Championships at NXR, but there can only be 2 champions. Ryan Sykes and Zariel Macchia take the victories in the individual races. And then congratulations to our teams winning as well, as Monroe Woodbury took the boys' race and Bethlehem takes the girls. Much more to come in the racing on this Super Saturday back in Bowdoin Park for the Northeast. In just a moment, you're watching Nike Cross Regionals on runnerspace.com.